And sadly, reflection being that they just don't do their work, they don't dot their I's and cross their T's. And then they end up with Section 92s and whatever stuck on them. So we need to get it into perspective. But the other side of the coin, you've heard today that I think there's about 1,000 staff over the last 12 months or more that have moved on from the organisation for vast reasons. And I think Ian's just touched on a few of them there. Cheaper housing, less congestion on roads, and better job opportunities, but more in particular, salaries that's attracting people to move, which is then putting pressure on the organisation, and in particular the building area. And I do feel sorry for our guys because they are absolutely stretched, Madam Chair, in the planning and building area at the moment. There's no silver bullet for it. And I know, Ian, you're trying to get as much resource into it as you possibly can to try and get through the problem. But I want to emphasise again, Madam Chair, that when I hear potential candidates standing for this year's election saying we're going to go and clean up Auckland Council, I can tell you, when it comes to the building, it's no reflection on our teams. You know, we've still got to do some tidying up, and Ian's in the process of doing that, but it's the fact is that people are just not dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
You, Councillor Quacks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ian, I was just trying to get my head around this, but so as we look at it on the graph on the far right-hand side, those are dwelling consents, right? So that's 9,651
Oh, that's
dwelling
correct,
consents.
yes.
Yeah,
Residential units, yes.
So residential units, right. So the other 23, the other building consents lodged, the middle graph, that's all sorts of other buildings, is that right, Ian?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Because I think it is important that we understand the difference between the building consents and the dwelling consents. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Casey.
Is this just on the building control?
Just on the building control services. Okay. And Councillor Crum.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify a figure in, did you say that currently 9% are using online consenting?
That's correct.
Yeah. So just, is that, you might want to call it a target within the target, so we're looking at overall targets and satisfaction with things overall in your department, but is that 9% what do you have targets for that? For that specifically, those taking up online consenting, is that in track with what you'd hoped right now, and plans for, perhaps in the marketing space, just flesh out for us how things are tracking?
Yes, we're aiming before December to get to 30% on the digital channel. There's a number of tweaks we need to make to it to enable it to be to optimise it so that we can actually load more of a channel on. My intention is to get 100% of all our applications on that digital channel. It's just making sure that it's working optimally. At the moment, the situation we're in is that we do not have an interface with all of the legacy systems within the Auckland Council. So we've got 7 sets of legacy systems, roughly, and that means for this online application has to interface with every single one of those. And those who know something about IT will realise a lot of the cost and complexity is actually trying to get 2 applications to talk to one another. The benefit of having Nucor, of course, is we've got one common platform that we need to talk to, and that will enable us to be able to make significant gains. Like I say, I don't think it's too hard to sell a digital channel to anyone involved in designing and construction. I think everyone's right into it. It's just a matter of making sure that we've actually got the architecture to support it. Nucor will provide that.
So just to confirm again, it's 30. You'd hope for 30% by December with the tweaks, and the new core October
Correct. So we're
That's
rolling
required as
Nucor
well.
out in October, so that'll enable us to be able to start ramping up volume on that digital channel. I wouldn't think we'd probably be getting to full use of that channel to probably sometime after we roll out Nucor in the central southern area.
And 100% when? Aiming for 100%?
It will be sometime in 2018.
Okay.
One of the learnings we've got is that whilst there might be a small percentage of people who would are still creating digital plans in a manual form rather than digital, they'll very quickly gravitate to digital, and we can basically scan those plans at a small modest cost to enable us to be able to get everything on that channel.
Thank you. And Councillor Cashmore.
There's two questions, if I may, Madam Chair. Ian, the first one is the 96% of the buildings processed within 20 days. Is that strictly the 20 days, or is that the 20 days plus the request for further information procedures?
So that's business days, takeaway on hold days.
So it's just that first category. Okay.
So if the other measure we quite often use is percentage within 40 working days, and that 40 working days is a better reflection, I guess, of how we're performing as a building and construction system, because that includes those on-hold days. So what we're seeing at the moment is that the industry is also very busy. They're struggling to find the competent resource they need to be able to design and construct, and as a result, that's slowing everything up. And as we've heard from the councillor earlier, that means a slower turnaround when we request for additional information. And so we've got a target of 80% for our 40 working days. We're currently tracking, I think, about 78%. So we're below definitely where we want to be. We want to be above 80%. But I guess that measure is a reflection of the industry and how we're all working together, and we're under load.
And the second question is a commentary, if you can, about MB, product certification and the risk holders in those product certifications. Is it us? Is it the product certifier? Is it the product manufacturer? And is there any duplication or additional cost because of those systems?
The 2004 Building Act had like 3 legs to it. One of them was the accreditation of the building assessment authorities. One of them was the creation of the licensed building practitioner. The third one was product certification. So the central government has delivered an appraisal system, but we're still, I suppose, the industry is really waiting on that, I guess, some kind of product certification system. And I guess that means that a lot of my team's resource is tied up looking at different types of products, trying to understand if the product certificate we've got actually makes that product fit for purpose for a particular application or not.
Point, yeah.
It adds to some time.
Yeah. So it's a complication that we could try and get rid of in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian. I mean, this is a very interesting area, and of course we all field the war stories, like the hay barn that's taken 3 months to get consented, but I think I sorted that one out. But thank you. So Jenny and Kevin, do you want to carry on, and we'll take questions at the end and comments.
Moving across to the next slide, a bit of a summary for capital expenditure. So for the June year end, we completed $413 million of works for the year, and that was 74% of the full budget that was approved for the year. There were some timing delays experienced across a number of projects, particularly in the commercial property, strategic development area and community facilities. And the next agenda item does include a reference to the deferrals process, where we're expecting those projects will be completed in the next financial year. Okay, debt management. Overall year-end results, net debt was at $6.9 billion, which lines up and was slightly under the LTP projections. So that was a good result. The next slide provides a summary of the financial performance results. Okay, so just looking at the very bottom line there on the slide, the overall result for for the year was $411 million unfavourable compared to budget. And there's two key components that make up that amount. There's the highlighted blue line in the middle there, that's the operating surplus, that's the controllable element that management can influence the results. And the result there was a favourable result, $5 million favourable compared to budget. And in the non-operating space, the result there was $416 million unfavourable. And that's largely due to the Treasury derivatives, fair value accounting adjustment that we have to do, non-cash adjustment. And we have got John Bishop here today, our Treasurer, who can explain a bit more if we need. Okay. And then next slide is some Lagoima information, which we've included in the report. It's Appendix 5. This was requested at the last meeting. And Manager Manoj Raghupathi is here if you have any questions in relation to this. The slide provides a summary of the key components included in the report. And just to summarise, overall there were 1,100 Lagoima requests that we processed during the year, and the average cost to process each of those Lagoimas was $660. And also a reminder that we do publish some of the Lagoima responses where they're considered to be of general public interest. Okay, so just to summarise the key components of the performance report for the year end. So overall we are reporting that there's no areas of material concern. The overall performance results for the year end, we've got a 65% of our performance measures we either achieved or substantially achieved the targeted service levels, and there are some areas working to improve performance. The operational financial performance results for the year on track with a result that's better than budget by $5 million. Capital investment program completed $430 million for the year. It was 74% of the full year's budget. And finally, debt levels at $6.9 billion aligns with the LTP forecasts. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm sure there'll be some questions. It's interesting that the Lagoimas cost that much and that number, and they're usually from people who are trying to find out why we're wasting money. And I will say that every meeting because, you know, there are the serial. I'm not talking about the genuine person that wants to find something out. I'm talking about the serial people who we see every week when we get that. And we're thinking, hang on, aren't they the people that are at the moment telling us we're spending far too much money? But never mind. We have something, John.
Thanks. Yeah, just on that question of the cost of the Lagoimas, I'm assuming that's arrived at by allocating the staff time, their salary, and dividing up the hourly rate. But it's a little bit like the cost to run these meetings, isn't it? Where there's $20,000 or $30,000, and that's largely the staff time who are employed by the council to do that job. So I guess what I'm saying is it's a bit of an artificial cost. That's people's job to do that. It's not an additional, that's in their salary. So I guess to start allocating an hourly, a rate, whether it be for meetings or whether it be for Lagoimas, is a little misleading because people are employed to do that job. It's not an additional cost.
Would you like to comment on
Loaded
that?
question, but...
I mean, presumably if we didn't have so many, we wouldn't need such a big staff, but maybe
Well, I
you'd
guess
like to
the
comment.
same principle then could apply to meetings such as this. If you cut down to one meeting, then it would do away with the cost. Well, it wouldn't, because the people are still being employed by the council. So,
Oh.
well, we have
Anyway,
meetings...
would you like to hear from the gentleman?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this, we went away and estimated the cost as a result of this committee's request for a bit more information on how much this is costing the organisation. So like you said, Councillor Watson, it does have a fixed component. So my team's cost is included in this, so that's the fixed component. There is also a variable component, which is all the experts who are out there gathering the information for these Lagoimas. That does change with the complexity of the information and the number of Lagoimas that do come in. So it does take into account both of those aspects of it, and the report does make clear that it is quite a conservative measure, so we haven't allowed for certain things like management review and administrative costs in this as well. So we have under estimated in this instance. So and we wanted to do that deliberately.
Okay. That's a very good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hulse.
Just a brief idea,